Hi, Joko here, and I'm here to give some feedback to Faisa Farouk, who, as you can see here somewhere, there's a question that he put, and then I asked some rhetorical questions, some concept-checking questions, to see if I could push him down the right path in understanding what this question is asking. You know, we expect the IELTS questions to be about big issues, about things that are very important. But they're not. They're often quite about rather trivial things that are unimportant. And, well, not completely unimportant, but in this case, the use of the word several and fewer in the same question, and also the fact that this is this question has multiple parts. This has confused many people over the years. This question, which originally appeared in Cambridge 6, I think, was part of a course that I delivered for many years, and so I've seen this essay answered, 50 times, and well, more than that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And what is the question specifically? Let's take a closer look at it, shall we? Here's Farouk, and these are my rhetorical questions, okay? Based on the words in the prompt. How many are several? Well, let's look at what he said. Well, he didn't actually answer that. He didn't. What does it mean, several? And fewer languages and few languages, okay? A few. Okay, so we'll go to, here's Peach. Here. Okay, and then I repeat myself here. So, let's go over here. Several languages die out. Okay, several, by the dictionary, means more than two, but not a lot. Okay, in my mind, that means 3, 5, 7, something like that. Now, they don't expect you to be a cunning linguist to understand that, that there are over 10,000 languages in the world, and that the disappearance, the dying out of 2 or 3 or 4 per year is not a big deal. Well, it is to the people who speak those languages, but on the global scale, it's really not an important thing. So when they say several languages die out, some people think that this is not important because there's not many of them. But if they believe that because life will be easier if there are fewer languages in the world, well, those people who say that aren't understanding how obscure these languages are. Obscure meaning rarely used. Now, it is true that larger languages have died out, but you wouldn't notice. You really wouldn't. Okay? So, several means more than two, probably more than a few. But it's a few is also more than two and less than a lot. Several is a little bit more than a few, but they're almost synonyms. And so this language here, where it says, life will be easier if there are fewer languages in the world. A few means 4 or 5. Fewer just means less than there are. Okay? This is an adjective. A few is a noun, or a quantifier. Okay, to what extent do you agree or disagree with this opinion? Give reasons for your answers and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge or experience. Now, the thing here is that what part of the question are you being asked to agree or disagree with? This part? It's not important? Is that what they mean? Or is it this part? That life would be easier if there are fewer languages in the world? Can you agree with one part and disagree with another? Eventually, that's what he tells us he does. But I don't see it. Okay, so he comes back with, this is the revised essay. Several languages, you can say a few, that's just from are being replaced by fewer and common ones. Okay, nothing is being replaced. To replace something is an action, is an activity, is something that is being done Languages don't die out on purpose. They're not being killed. They just die out. And they're being replaced, I suppose. Everybody has to talk. But by fewer and common ones? No, that is not the case. It doesn't say that in the question. There's nothing in the question that talks about replacement and common languages. Okay, so fewer, I suppose you mean, what you meant to say there was, by fewer and common ones. By a few common languages. A few, like English and Urdu and Spanish and Portuguese, right? But that's not the case, actually. You don't have to know that, but a little background on this question. I didn't know anything about it, but I just sort of deduced that these languages that were disappearing were probably tribal languages amongst the native peoples, the indigenous peoples in various countries, like in the United States, where the Native American people used to have hundreds of languages, and they're disappearing. Even more so is the case in Australia, where the Aborigines there had many, many, many languages, and they're dying out as well. I suppose it's happening in places like Asia. I know that, like, not far from where I am now, as is much the case in South Asia, there's an area of mountains, or at least hills, and in the hills of Chin State, it's very sparsely populated, not many people. I think about 500,000 people live in the whole state. And it's divided up by mountains. And these separate people, and there's like 6 different main languages amongst the Chin people. And between those 6 languages, there's got to be dozens of other dialects. Now, if one of those 6 Chin languages disappears, it's probably being replaced by one of the other Chin languages, or by Myanmar, which is not a very common language either, by Burmese, but most likely another Chin language in that same family. So you don't know that. I mean, but I can imagine that's what's happening. In the U.S. and in Australia, the native languages are being replaced by English. This is true. But not always. Then you use a semicolon. Why? There are reasons to use a semicolon, and this is not one of them. It is thought by some people that dying of languages, by the way, green is grammar, yellow is word choice, and red is understanding the question, is task response. That dying of languages, that the dying out of languages, or the death of languages is not worthy. Worthy is not the word you were looking for there. It's not of significance. It's of no importance. Because a smaller number of languages will make life less complicated, okay? I strongly agree with this statement. Which one? Because it must be the statement. I strongly agree with this statement because but a statement can't minimize communication barriers. The death of languages dying out, would minimize communication barrier between communities worldwide. Would it now? If some obscure language that obviously no one speaks disappears, how does that help communications worldwide? I guess we'll find out. Languages, common means of communication, entirely not needed. We know what languages are. Vary significantly within different countries of the same subcontinent. There's only one subcontinent that people refer to. And that, yes, which is probably where you're from. Most people are who are on this board. You don't use it this way because it's not the same subcontinent, the same region. or continent or area. And then your comma here, inherited by ancestors to generation over generation. Inherited, no? Passed down by ancestors to future generations, to newer generations. Inherited by ancestors to generation over generation to generation. However, during the past few years, does it say that in the question? Does it say anything about how long? Actually, I think it does, doesn't it? It says every year. Every year. Not just recent years. A limited number of languages are considered universal. It does not say that in the question whatsoever. Now, you're trying to, if you're just bringing up other points, well, you're not addressing the question. Okay? This is not about universal languages, while others are abated. This inevitably contributes positively towards globalization and leading an easy adaptation of people to any part of the world to make their livings for the sake of tourism or for the sake of tourism, despite belonging to different cultural origins. Okay. We've got from however, comma, during the past few years, comma, a limited number of considering yourself, comma, while others are abated, comma, this inevitably, comma, or just a couple of really, really long sentence, comma. This from however down, it's one sentence, and it's grammatically horribly incorrect. You can't do this. Be careful with your comma splices. When a thought ends, use a full stop, period. Okay? However, during the past few years, a few languages are considered during the past few years means that have become considered universal, while others are abated. Period. Stop. New sentence. This inevitably contributes towards globalization and leading an easy adaptation. No. I mean, yeah, moving on. Furthermore, local languages pose hindrance in developing connection with the people of varied cultures. Yeah, sure. Okay, they also help preserve cultures. In other words, again, no period, just straight another comma. In other words, learning. What did I say here? What is this? Learning a different mother tongue. Okay. You cannot learn a different mother tongue. Your mother tongue is what you were born with. Okay? You can learn a second language. You can't learn a different mother tongue. The mother tongue is the language that your mother spoke to you in when you were a baby. It only happens once. Needs special attention and a large time span. How is that different than English? On the contrary, comma, no, it should be, to what an individual learned, say one of the universal languages, such as, while bringing up. The English language, for example, I knew English would come into it, is a mode of study, and almost, what does this have to do with languages dying out, or life being easier? I see. If they learned English, life would be easier. But the dying out of languages does not make life easier. Similarly, and so this is all off topic, which is why it's orange. All in all, some may argue that cultural representation would be affected when mother tongue would be replaced by any other lingo. Yeah, okay, so now you touch on the point of the other side, which is that, these languages disappearing is important because their culture disappears with the language. Fading historical memories and disconnecting them with their ancestors. Who's being disconnected? However, I completely oppose this. It's good that you oppose the replacement of memories and disconnect. No, you oppose because fewer languages can improve the development outcomes in the future. If Chin State has 4 languages instead of 8, it's not going to do much for the development of Chin State. It really won't. In terms of sharing neighborhood, bringing harmony among nations, and relieving communication stress while moving between different geographical regions of the world. Wow, that's a heavy sentence, man. However, starts with however. Yeah, your sentences are way too long. Way too long. What did wordcounter.net say? I thought I put this in here. Huh? Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, so your longest sentence was 52 words. Your average sentence was 33 words long. Ooh, you want to keep that in the low 20s, really. Huh. You used the word languages 9 times. Now, that's understandable to some extent because there's not that many good synonyms for languages. Mother tongues, used 1 time, good. Used twice, doesn't add to your score. Okay, did I get through that already? I did. Oh my. So, task response. Understand the question. Read the question again and again and again. Well, you don't have that much time. Read it a couple of times and underline the key words in the sentence. And watch the video I made, almost 3 years ago about discuss both views and give your own opinion, because it features this question right here. Your word choice is not bad. That's one of your strengths. Cohesion and coherence. I was so caught up with all in all, furthermore. Some of it is not necessary. There's not that much of it. You can improve there as well. Okay, I hope that helps. I'll put the link to the other video I'm talking about in the comments.